MetroPolitics on Jewish Week TV. We're here in the Midtown Manhattan headquarters of Republican candidate for Governor Rick Lazio. Thank you so much for joining us
Adam,
today.
great to be on. Good to see you.
How's the campaign going?
It's going really well, thank you. We're traveling the state, connecting with voters. Really, I think that our message of balancing budgets, living within our means, creating more of a growth agenda for the state, improving education, and just bringing people together is one that's really resonating with folks around the state. They want an end to the government as they know it now. An Albany government that's been a failure, corruption, scandal, budgets never on time, budgets that are never balanced, chaos, high taxes, fewer jobs. They want to turn around, and I want to turn around this state.
Now you're running after 4 years of scandal under two Democratic governors, almost like a gift to a candidate. How do you translate that into victory?
Well, I think you talk about the fact that we need to get down to fundamentals. And when I look at all the issues that confront the state, one of the most important issues is what I would characterize as public character. Are we going to elect somebody as governor who will be a fearless leader, who will do what needs to be done on behalf of the people, regardless of the political consequences? Will we have somebody that will stand for fundamental and sweeping reform, even if it annoys the interest groups that have traditionally controlled the Albany agenda? I think the people of this state are hungry for it. I think they want somebody who's going to show really courageous leadership. And will also point out the missteps or the corruption, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. For example, I would love to see a commission impaneled with subpoena power to be able to investigate some of these allegations of public corruption. I think we can do a much better job ferreting it out. And nobody can say in the 4 years that Andrew Cuomo has been Attorney General that Albany is any cleaner than it was 4 years ago.
Now the budget process has drawn out these last few months. Could you say that if you were governor now that would have passed the budget?
Yeah, without a doubt. I would have said last year's budget, which I think exacerbated this year's budget problem, was a mistake to sign. David Patterson, who I gave enormous credit to, by the way, for describing the scope of the fiscal crisis that confronts the state, made a huge mistake in signing a budget that increased spending by over 3 times the rate of inflation. I would never have been in that position. I would have insisted on a budget on time. I would have kept the legislature in every day until they got their work done and got a budget done. I would have used my budget authority and my veto authority effectively and rigorously to bring spending under line, and we would have had a balanced budget by now.
The Speaker of the Assembly, Sheldon Silver, has been around for about 15 years. He's not going anywhere. You'll have to deal with him and possibly a Democrat-controlled Senate as well. Right. How do you get things done with the 3 men in a room, 2 of which are
Well, 2 things I would say. First of all, the governor needs to focus on the things that the governor can do without the approval of the legislature. And there's a whole host of things that are going to be very impactful, ranging from managing the workforce and the cost of the workforce. New York State has over 200,000 public employees, and almost all of the contracts covering those employees are up for renegotiation on April 1st, following what I hope will be my election of next year. And the second thing is we need to redesign our Medicaid program. We need to make it work both for the patients that are being covered and for the taxpayers. Right now, our costs are completely out of control. We're spending about $1 billion a week, and we need to redesign that program to move more of it to managed care, to have more cost containment, to encourage patients not to go into emergency rooms for non-emergency services, because it's not good for them either. We want to make sure they've got good follow-up care. We've got more nurse practitioners and family doctors.
Who are some of your advisors on Jewish issues?
We've got a number of different people that have been incredibly helpful. Sandra Gerber is somebody who's been, I was with yesterday. He's been very, very helpful. We were at the event where the Prime Minister Netanyahu was speaking to the Council of Presidents of major Jewish organizations. Henry Kissinger on some of the international issues is one of our advisors, and has been very good on a number of these points. So we've got lots of different big people that are really involved in this campaign, and they want to have a New York that represents them. Quality, progressive, growing, a state that cares about the Jewish community as it cares about every other community. Speaks out, a governor that speaks out on international issues. New York State is unlike any other state. And the governor of the state is expected, because of the size of these various ethnicities and nationalities within New York State, to have an opinion on things that happen outside of our border because it affects the people inside the state. Now we're going to be that kind of government.
Jews in New York, perhaps more than any other state, have shown a willingness, although registered Democrat, to cross party lines, vote for Republicans like Aldemano, George Pataki, Rudy Giuliani. How do you cultivate that?
Well, I think the same way I did it in 2000 in my Senate run, where according to exit polls, we won almost half of the Jewish vote, which, you know, from a Republican standpoint is a high watermark, really. I think traditionally the Jewish community understands with me they have somebody who's got fiscal discipline, but who has been socially tolerant and moderate. It's a nice balance for most of the community. They also know that they have somebody who has been a rigorous and consistent supporter of the State of Israel as a member of Congress. I was the Speaker's representative on a mission over to Israel. I served on the Holocaust Assets Commission as a member. I have stood traditionally for an undivided Jerusalem. I've been speaking out even in this campaign on issues of importance to the community.
Well, what is your impression of some of the issues of importance other than Israel?
Well, I would say, absolutely, healthcare, housing, education are all really important issues to the community. More and more people that are talking to me about the cost of yeshivas, for example, and how difficult it is for working class families to be able to afford the tuition. Many people concerned, of course, about the cost of home health care and the cost of aging out and the assistance to seniors. I mean, the Jewish community traditionally has had enormous compassion and concern for its elders, for the seniors in the community. And so we want to make sure that those programs are properly protected. And housing, which has been an area that I have spent a good part of my life, very important to me. I was the chairman of the Housing Committee in the House of Representatives, and I've always been a strong advocate for assisted housing and for affordable housing, and that's an important issue for the community as well. I think, for me, again, talking about the balance, somebody who in Congress helped provide the first balanced budget in a generation, I'll do that again for the state. Somebody who's been in the private sector for the last 10 years and has created private balanced budgets in the private sector, I'll do that again for New York State. And somebody that's shown this sort of sense of compassion. I mean, I was the lead sponsor and author in the House of Representatives for a bill that allowed disabled Americans to go back to work and keep their health care benefits. I was the lead sponsor on an overhaul of public housing that expanded options for tenants. So these are things that I think show the kind of balance that the people of New York are looking for.
You mentioned the tuition issue. It's very important to many in the Jewish community as well as in the Catholic community. People who go to private schools, parochial schools, and have to struggle with the cost of tuition. Do you support some kind of a tax break for people who pay private school tuition?
I do. I believe in choice in education. Listen, I was a public school graduate, so I am a deep believer in quality public schools. I expect accountability. I want to make sure we pay for performance. I'm for reforming the public schools. I am for lifting the cap entirely on charter schools. I think these have proven to be successful models. And I think that people that choose to send their child to a parochial school or a yeshiva should also be provided with support. I think, candidly, politically, that direct assistance is a difficult political sell. Doesn't mean we're not for it, and we don't go out there in favor of it. But I do believe that we should provide as many options for parents to send their child to the school of their choice.
What about vouchers?
Yeah, I would be in favor of vouchers, support school vouchers. Don't see that at all as in conflict with strong support for public schools. Again, I think it's another tool for parents to have. We want to incentivize our young people to stay in school, get the best quality education, be inspired to get their high school diploma. We know that if people stay in school and get their high school diploma, they're 3 times more likely to be employed as opposed to be chronically unemployed. If they drop out, they're 8 times more likely to be incarcerated. So we've got to get our children to stay in school, to be challenged, and get their high school diploma.